2025. The world stands on the edge of a new era. As Russian military drills intensify and G7 leaders scramble behind closed doors, global alliances are shifting in real time. Protests erupt over soaring energy prices, and diplomatic handshakes between Beijing and Moscow signal a deepening divide. Across continents, leaders gather, alliances fracture, and the rules of the game are rewritten. This is the Great Realignment. Hello and welcome back to another in-depth analysis of global tensions and rising hostilities in 2025. If this content interests you, then please consider sharing a like and comment to share your thoughts. Now for the video. The year is 2025. 3 years have passed since the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, an event that historians will likely mark as the definitive end of the post-Cold War era. But the shockwaves of that conflict are no longer just about Kyiv or Moscow. They are fundamentally reshaping the bedrock of global power. Tonight, we provide an in-depth analysis of how the continued strategies of Russian President Vladimir Putin are not just challenging the old order, but are actively forging new and often uneasy global alliances. This is the story of the Great Realignment. Let's begin with the most immediate consequence, the hardening of the Western bloc. In 2025, NATO is larger and more militarized than at any point in its history. Putin's aggression achieved what decades of diplomacy could not. It gave the alliance a singular, unifying purpose. We've seen defense spending across the alliance consistently exceed the 2% GDP target. Permanent battle groups are no longer just in the Baltics. They form an iron curtain from the Arctic shores of Finland down to the Black Sea in Romania. This is Fortress West. The core principle is collective defense, backed by a re-energized American commitment to European security. Washington's European pivot is real, with 2 new permanent military bases established in Poland and Romania in late 2024, a direct response to Russian strategic deployments in Belarus. But beneath this surface of unity, Putin's strategy is exposing deep fractures. The primary tool? Economic warfare and what analysts are calling war fatigue. 3 winters of constrained Russian energy supplies have taken a toll. While Europe has diversified its energy sources at immense cost, the economic pain is a potent political weapon. Populist parties on both the left and right are gaining ground, campaigning on platforms of de-escalation and a return to economic normalcy. They ask a simple question: are we prepared to endure a state of perpetual economic semi-war for a conflict with no clear end in sight? This internal political pressure is Putin's long game. He doesn't need to defeat NATO militarily. He needs to wait for Western domestic politics to force a change in policy. The 2025 European Parliament elections became a major test of this, showing significant gains for parties questioning the cost of indefinite support for Kyiv. If the West has solidified, so has its primary counterweight. The no-limits partnership between Russia and China has, by 2025, evolved into a full-blown strategic axis. It's an alliance born of necessity and, honestly, shared grievances against American dominance. With Western markets largely closed, Russia's economy has been rerouted east. Russia provides the raw materials and energy that fuel China's industrial might. In return, China provides the technological goods, from drones and machine tools to consumer electronics, that Russia can no longer import from the West. The yuan is now the de facto reserve currency for Russian trade. But make no mistake, this is a deeply asymmetric relationship. In 2022, Putin may have seen Xi as an equal. By 2025, it is clear that Russia is the junior partner. Moscow is increasingly dependent on Beijing for its economic survival and for diplomatic cover at the United Nations.
What we're seeing is China leveraging Russia's isolation for its own strategic gain. For example, the new Arctic shipping lane agreements, finalized in the second quarter of this year, heavily favor Chinese shipping companies. Beijing gets access to Russian military technology and a secure resource hinterland, all while positioning itself as a leader of an alternative, non-Western global order. Putin gets survival, but at the cost of sovereignty.
This dynamic presents the West with its greatest strategic challenge: how to handle a nuclear-armed resource giant effectively acting as a vassal state for its main economic competitor. Perhaps the most significant change in global alliances is happening outside of these two main blocs. Vladimir Putin has successfully positioned Russia not as an aggressor, but as a vanguard against a Western-led so-called neo-colonial order. It's a message that, honestly, really resonates. Throughout 2024 and 2025, Russia has intensified its diplomatic and economic push across the global south. They offer grain, cheap energy, arms deals, and security assistance without the strings of human rights or democracy lectures that often accompany Western aid. Take Brazil and South Africa. As key members of the BRICS bloc, they have refused to condemn Russia, prioritizing their own economic development and multi-aligned foreign policy. They see this new world not as a binary choice between Washington and Moscow, but as an opportunity to maximize their own influence by playing the great powers off each other. The Middle East is another crucial theater. The historic Abraham Accords are being tested as Gulf states like Saudi Arabia and the UAE pursue their own pragmatic foreign policy. In a landmark move in early 2025, Riyadh and Moscow signed a long-term oil production coordination pact outside of the traditional OPEC+ framework. A clear signal that they are hedging their bets and no longer see the United States as their sole security guarantor. This isn't just about diplomacy. Russia offers a security model, often through private military companies, that appeals to regimes seeking to ensure their stability without Western oversight. It's a transactional, effective, and often brutal form of influence. So, what does this all mean for the future? Putin's actions, intended to restore Russian greatness and push NATO back, have ironically accelerated the birth of a world he may not be able to control. He has galvanized his primary adversary into a larger, more focused military bloc. He has mortgaged his country's future to a powerful, calculating neighbor in China, and he has helped give rise to a powerful group of middle powers who are now adept at navigating a world with multiple centers of gravity, prioritizing their own interests above all else. The era of a single US-led global order is over. The bipolar standoff of the Cold War is not returning. We are now in a messy, unpredictable, and dangerous multipolar moment. Vladimir Putin may have been the catalyst, but the forces he has unleashed are now shaping a new global map of power and allegiance, with consequences that will define the rest of this century. Thank you for watching.